Okay, welcome and God bless everybody. I'm Mark Wallace. This is True North Studio where we live the word and walk with power. God bless you all. Today, we're going to learn to blueprint our believing in order to build or rebuild a section of our lives. And this is where we endeavor to map out the believing process by breaking it down into 4 simple steps. See, a blueprint is a detailed plan of action. It's a method worked out in advance to help us achieve our objective. It's our business plan, our roadmap, our game plan, our strategy. See, blueprinting our believing is a system of thinking and action that's screwed down so tight that it will be impossible to fail if we adhere to the plan. Example, when I was a teen, I had a friend who bought a hot rod that had its engine blueprinted and balanced. And not only was every similar part in that engine the exact same weight and dimension, and the crankshaft was balanced exactly. But he had everything that was done to that car and to that engine documented on a printout and down to the 100,000ths of an inch and down to just a portion of a gram. And it's just in case he needed a part. A lot of people build cars. Very few people get them blueprinted. See, his engine was crazy smooth. It was cool and it was powerful. See, an additional benefit of blueprinting one's believing is that it allows us a system in which we can repeat our believing process. So we can be able to tweak it or use it for a similar project. Believing for a specific desire is like following a well-used set of blueprints. Like I've said once before, there's some things we're all very good at believing for, and other things not so much. We're really good at getting healed, or really good at getting a job, or really good at whatever. You see, and there's other things that we just need a little more help on. And that's where we can learn to take what is successful, the blueprint, and extrapolate that into where we're a little bit weaker. And that's what I hope to accomplish today. So, sort of the 4 D's of doing. Dream it, discuss it, detail it, and do it. So number 1, dream it. First we need to dream up the idea. Like, for example, what will my dream house or my home improvement project look like when it's completed? Or what enhancement will be easily noticed in my life by increasing my education or increasing my income? Or how can I clearly picture myself totally healed? We're talking about dreaming here. What exactly will I look like when I lose that weight and get back in shape? Can you see it? See, all believing starts with daytime dreaming. And number 2 is discuss it. Next, we narrow down or we tailor our dream by discussing it with others. Goals take the shape of spoken words in the early stages of believing. Number 3 is detail it. See, after we put the pencil to the paper and we work out every single detail, that's also when we count the cost. You see, so we detail. First we dream it. Then we discuss it with our friends. Then we detail it out. See, most people skip this step because it takes so much work, the detailing. It could take years. Remember, so many people who are goal-setting gurus, they say that most people forget about their goals after 1 week. Well, then they didn't detail it. They might have had a little dream and a little discussion, and then they're off to something else. You see, sort of that term, fail to plan, plan to fail. We've heard that. So we're talking about planning out our believing blueprint. Remember, you are the architect of your own life. And finally, number 4, do it. Finally, we start building, we do it. Blueprinted believing helps us repeat our receiving. See, as we apply these 4 steps, we will absolutely receive. It works for anything in life, home, job, health, whatever. As we master the art of blueprinting our believing, we will be able to replicate the believing process again and again and again. Remember, Jesus had to keep telling these guys, his apostles, he had to remember. If you had remembered what you just did when you fed the 5,000, you could have stopped this storm. That was their big failure, is they failed to remember. We have to remember to remember. So by dreaming it, discussing it, by detailing our plans, we will be able to do it. So let's go through these 4 steps to blueprinting our believing. Number 1, dream it. See, step 1 in blueprinting our believing is dreaming. Now, I'm not talking about those seemingly disjointed nighttime dreams, where you're riding a red bicycle through the puddled alley of your youth, followed by 3 tail-wagging wiener dogs, and the next instant you're flying over Manhattan with a big smile on your face. I'm not talking about that kind of dream. I'm talking about those daytime dreams, those dustless, well-crafted visions, well-rehearsed images where we've nailed down in our minds. I'm talking about those indelible dreams, those mental pictures that we will absolutely do, have, or become. Quote, all men dream, but not equally. Those who dream by night in the dusty recesses of their mind wake up in the day to find that it was vanity. But the dreamers of the day are dangerous men, for they may act on their dreams with open eyes to make them possible. End of quote. T.E. Lawrence, a British Army officer and author best known as the real-life Lawrence of Arabia. This guy knew adventure, too. He saw countries taking over countries, peoples taking over peoples. He knew the power of one man's dream. See, if that type of dreaming is considered living dangerously, it may be time for all of us to live a little dangerously. It's time to open our inner eyes and see the beauty that God has already supplied to us. Quote, to accomplish great things, we must not only act, but also dream, not only plan, but also believe. That's Anatole France, a 19th century French poet. Not only plan, but also believe. Have you ever dreamed about what you will actually do in your new career? Can you see it? How will you feel? What do you plan to do with all that extra money that you've prayed so often to God to receive? What's the first thing you're going to do when you get your health back? Can you see it? Can you feel it? Where will you go? What are you going to do? What will it be like when the pain is gone or the numbness has vanished? What will it be like when once again we'll be able to move like we once did? What will it be like when we feel the warm touch of a loved one? Whereas before there was nothing. See, what's it going to be like when the weight's gone and you fit into that outfit you've been eyeballing? Can you envision it? See, if you can dream it, you can grasp it. Believing works, folks. Every successful person knows this. if that's living dangerously, count me in. Quote, you have to dream before your dreams can come true. That's APJ Abdul Kalam, 11th President of India. You have to dream before your dreams can come true. What are we doing with our minds? Do we even dream? One person in here was telling me that she had been wanting a new job for 3-4 years, right? And she'd gone on interview after interview and almost got hired and almost got hired and almost got hired, and they picked the next. They were up to 2 people, picked the other one, picked the other one, picked the other one. And but this person kept applying. And I think last week she got the job she'd been wanting for years. You know, with a raise in pay and better hours. But to do that, she wrote on her mirror what she wanted. She put little things around her house to remind herself of this goal. And I thought, that's all the dream. And that's also a couple more things that are in here, you know, that we're going to get to. You know, you have to dream before your dreams can come true. Here's one, quote, reality is wrong. Dreams are for real. End of quote. Tupac, you know, American rapper. Dreams are for real. You don't become a famous rapper if you don't dream of it. Ecclesiastes 5:3 from the Young's literal translation says, for the dream hath come by the abundance of business, and the voice of a fool by the abundance of words. Now see, there's 2 ways to look at that verse. And the way most people, in fact, everybody, translated this to mean that when your life is way too busy, you might have unsettled dreams or nightmares. And it also says that a fool does a lot more talking than acting upon his or her dream. And I think this can be interpreted with a more positive slant, knowing the person who wrote this, Solomon. And I thought our dreams will come true as we put in the required work. Wasn't that the ethos, the philosophy, the believing mindset of Solomon? Didn't Solomon write the entire book of Ecclesiastes? You know, wouldn't his chasing down a dream attitude have helped him become the richest man in the world at the time? Sure. Our dreams will come true as we put in the required work. You got to work on your dreams, or you're living somebody else's. Like I said before, that's why history repeats itself. We just keep living other people's dreams. I'm tired of it. I'm ready to live a little dangerously, you know. And Solomon said that if we actually plan on reaching dreams, we will need to turn our talk into action. Quote, the only thing worse than being blind is having sight but no vision. End of quote. Helen Keller. Now 2 quotes by Napoleon's. Quote, whatever the mind of man can conceive and believe, it can achieve. That's Napoleon Hill. How about imagination rules the world? That's a Napoleon Bonaparte. And see, we rule our lives by believing, by dreaming, by discussing, by detailing, and by doing. Proverbs 23:7 from King James says, for as he thinketh in his heart, so is he. The pulpit commentary describes this phrase to say, for as one calculates within himself, so is he. For as one calculates within himself, so is he. It's hard when you don't have, and all you can see is what you don't have. If that's our calculation, then that's what we get. It's hard to switch and go to where we see what we really want, what we need, what we're going to absolutely have, even if we have lack on this side. What do you calculate your worth to be? You're priceless. You're priceless. When I was 8 years old, I asked my rich grandfather how much I was worth. Because I'd heard in school you're worth like $1.92 or something like that, in minerals. I don't know, it was some low number. And so I was riding with him in his car one time and through Greater St. Louis, and I asked him that question. And he paused for a second, and then he waved his hand across the windshield and to the side of the car at all the big buildings. He said, "You're worth more than all these buildings put together." And I thought, wow, it's better than $1.92 or whatever it was in the 60s there. What you think about you are what you think about all day long. Dr. Robert Schuller. You are what you think about all day long. Well, my grandfather told me I was priceless. I was without price. It's a pretty good image for a kid to have. James 1:8, King James says, "A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways." See, in order to get stable, consistent results from our dreams or from our vision, we must be able to clearly focus on exactly what we want, not on what we don't want. Young's literal translation translates James 1:8 to say, "A two-souled man is unstable in all his ways." I love that term, a two-souled man. It's like having two people crammed into one body, fighting over every decision. You ever felt like that? I once saw a set of Siamese twins at a carnival when I was a teenager. And they were behind a big, thick sheet of glass, probably one-way kind of glass. And they were sitting on the floor in what looked like a living room. And they were watching TV. And they were wearing these matching shorts, cowboy boots, and they had no shirt on to show where they were connected at their side or their belly. And the sign on the window said that they were each married to a different woman. Now, as a 15-year-old boy, my mind spun wildly on that thought, trying to picture how each of these guys could spend alone time with their particular wife. My freckles were exploding. I didn't know what to think. But more perplexing was who got to choose what TV channel. Just kidding. But imagine the Siamese twins fighting over the remote. I got it. No, I got it. It's crazy. Well, that's a two-souled man. We need a singular focus, a singular dream. Don't let anybody steal your dream. See, two people with two minds inhabiting one body could get very confusing. The same would be true of a house builder whose contractors were working off of different versions of the same blueprint. Could that be a problem? Oh, yeah. One's working off an older set instead of the updated version. I guarantee that mistake will end up being costly and a time waster. Which blueprints are you going off of? Being double-souled or double-minded confuses our believing blueprint. It's like thinking highly of ourselves one day and putting ourselves down the next day. I know none of us have ever done that. You see, before an architect begins any project, before any detailed discussions, before pen touches paper, before she fires up her computer, she will force herself to visualize the basics of her project. She begins to form her dream inside her head. See, step one is to dream clearly and consistently about what we want. And this takes us to step two. First we dream it, then we discuss it. And this is equally important. See, we dream it, we discuss it, we design it or detail it, so we can do it. So step two, discuss it. So streamline your dreams with discussion. See, our dreams are tailored with in-depth discussions. Do you know that prayer is a form of discussing things? Prayer helps you reset your believing. We all understand that. See, discussion forces us to clarify our dreams. If you can't talk about it clearly, you're not thinking about it clearly. Right? Can you clearly articulate your dream to someone else, to your best friend? Quote, all great change in America begins at the dinner table, end of quote. Ronald Reagan. Josephine just told me after my brother came to visit, and he can talk as much as her. And she loves sitting around the dinner table, even 2 hours after the meal, still talking. You know, my brain's about fried by then, you know, but I mean, she just totally digs it. And they discussed everything multiple times, you see. But that was how her family was, that dinner time, that discussion time. Because then people are talking about what they're thinking about, what they're dreaming about. And the more you talk about it, the easier it is to picture it. So you dream it, now you discuss it. See, discussion shapes our thoughts and sets our believing. Conversation collates our thoughts. Prayer streamlines our dreams. James 4:2, King James, ye have not because ye ask not. See, talk to God and discuss things with others. Talk about your dreams, your needs, your wants, your desires. You're not an island. We need each other. We're a social species. We're not designed to go it alone. So we've all heard the saying that talk is cheap, right? Talk is cheap. But when we discuss our dreams with a partner, with a friend, we realize that talk is chief, not cheap. Discussing our dreams with a friend helps solidify our desires. It's very important. Very important step. Luke 6:5, King James, out of the abundance of the heart, his mouth speaketh. The Message Bible says, quote, your true being brims over into true words and deeds, end of quote. What are we going to talk about when we truly believe? Or we will talk about what we truly believe. Here's another quote. Carve every word before you let it fall. End of quote. Oliver Wendell Holmes. See, our spoken words are the gas gauge of our believing. You know, those words will tell us if we're empty or we're full of believing. Sometimes we get so used to hearing ourselves blather about stupid stuff that we don't notice it anymore. And a lot of friends, they won't tell us because they're used to hearing us blather about stupidity. You see, but it's good to hold ourselves accountable. You see, if we'll actually listen to ourselves, we may be surprised what comes out of our mouth. You ever have to catch yourself? It's like, God, why did I say that? You know, you're talking even to yourself. Josephine hears me saying that sometimes. Mark, that's stupid. Why did you say that? I'm talking to myself, you know. sort of idiotic, but I think we all do it at times. It might be inside. But it's good to catch yourself if you start getting off base. This is why having a good friend or compatriot to bounce ideas off of is a good idea. Quote, "It's a repetition of affirmations that leads to belief. And once that belief becomes a deep conviction, things begin to happen." End of quote. Muhammad Ali. Successful guy. Psalm 116:10, King James. "I believed, therefore have I spoken." See, Mark Twain said the difference between the right word and the almost right word is the difference between lightning and the lightning bug. I'd say there's a little bit of difference, wouldn't you? Here's an example. I had recently bought my first car. I bought this big block Chevy. Had a 396 engine, and it was the size of a boat, this car. And one dark evening while cruising around some backcountry roads in Texas, my friends and I spotted a field just totally lit up with these fireflies, almost like the stars of the sky. There was millions of these things. And we had a bright idea to catch a few and release them in my car. And we thought it would be a trip. Hey, we're 16 years old. And we found a few jars and cans in the ditch and commenced to catch 100 or so of these little critters. And we got in the car, shut the doors, rolled up the windows, and shook them out of the containers. And they just fell to the floor and they did nothing. And so we discussed what to do. Real important 16-year-old discussion. What are we going to do now? How can we get these things to light up? And then through consensus, we determined that just like in nature, they needed moving air. So we got the car going pretty fast, cranked the windows down a few inches, and they all lit up at the same time, and we just laughed like crazy. See, if we want to light up our dreams, we need to get the fresh air of discussion in. Proverbs 11:14. "Where no counsel is, the people fall, but in the multitude of counselors, there's safety." I think that's self-explanatory. The New American Standard Bible says of that same verse, "Where there is no guidance, the people fall. But in abundance of counselors, there is victory." And the Word English Bible says, "Where there is no wise guidance, the nation falls. But in the multitude of counselors, there is victory." We see this in countries around the globe right now. But it works in a personal life or in a friendship or in a family. It's the same thing. I just did a job yesterday at a counseling center, and everyone was a different kind of counseling. For children, for adults, for sex problems, for this and that. I had the signs on the doors and the books in the rooms. And I thought, people need people to talk to. Especially when they get into some deep problems that they can't see themselves getting out of. They need someone to point the way. Well, we do too. If you need advice, get advice. We all need someone to bounce our ideas off of. So discuss your desire with God and with others until your direction is crystal clear. Until you can tell that dream is more real than real. Like Tupac said, dreams are real. It's got to be real. See, now that we've dreamed about our desire and discussed it with God and others, we're ready for step 3. Step 3 of our believing blueprint. And it's time to design it. We dream it, we discuss it, we design it, and we will do it. Number 3, design it. Now, this is typically the most important step, or the hardest step, I should really say. And most people give up here because it's really hard work. And it may take a long time because life gets complex. We get off track, we get distracted, things come up. It's hard. But this is where, to the best of our ability, we think through every detail and write it down or map it out or draw it on the mirror, whatever it takes. And this is our business plan, our personal business plan, our believing blueprint that's going to lead us to finally accomplishing our goal. This level of developing our believing blueprint also allows us to tweak and repeat the process once it's proven effective, like that blueprinted engine. A lot of people build engines, and they do a great job, but they couldn't replicate it again because they didn't write anything down, or they didn't get anything written down. I once heard that if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. Where are you going? Where are you going in life? I mean, you only have so many sets of 10 years. If you think about it. I mean, a movie star died last week, 81 years old. And I thought, gosh, that's only 8 chunks of 10. You know, I mean, that's not very long, really. You know, what are you going to do with the rest of your life? Do you have 50 years, 40 years, 30, 60, 80 years? You know, whatever the time. What are you going to do? Better plan it out. Or you're going to live somebody else's dream. Luke 14, verse 28 through 30 from the Message, it says, "Is there anyone here who, planning to build a new house, doesn't first sit down and figure out the cost so you'll know if you can complete it? If you only get the foundation laid and then run out of money, you're going to look pretty foolish. Everyone passing by will poke fun at you. He started something, but he couldn't finish." End of quote. Here's an example. I remember being 12 years old, living in a small Texas city of Wichita Falls. And I saw this flat tar paper roof that was just laid on top of a basement. It was about a foot high, this house. There was no house above ground at all. Just that metal staircase that led down into their basement. And I asked my dad what happened. And he said, well, a tornado took the house. And the people didn't have insurance, and they didn't save enough money to rebuild. So they just made a makeshift roof and lived in the basement with no windows. Now, to me, it looked dark and silly. See, that's all they could afford. What about our life? How do we look to other people? Is it dark and silly? How do we look like to ourselves? Do we see a dark and silly, unfinished building? If the price has already been paid, and if we've already been given everything we'll ever need, then I should say we should have whatever house we want, figuratively speaking. What do you need? You deserve it, folks. You deserve abundance. You deserve health. You deserve friendship and love. See, counting the cost is simply detailing out our believing mind picture. And this is where our believing really takes shape. It would be like building a miniature model of a building before beginning construction on the actual building. You see it on TV shows all the time, the architect carrying this thing, and they always drop it right in the lobby. I mean, it seemed like every movie I've ever seen where they're carrying one of those miniature buildings, they always drop it and have to rebuild the thing, you see. But we don't drop it. You see, but those miniatures show others an example of that finished product. They have little trees and like an architect, he can see, he's thought through every single expenditure. He's thought through every steel stud, every piece of glass, every window frame, every piece of decking, how much concrete it's going to take to put on the floors. He knows everything, the sheetrock, the screws, everything, the electrical, the plumbing, everything, their handling systems. He's thought through, or she has thought through everything, every single detail. If somebody does that for a building, imagine what our life would be like if we would do it for ourselves. Think through every nut and bolt, everything, to help you get to where you want to go. That's the whole point of this teaching. It's just detailing out your life. Start small, believe big. In fact, the architect can usually picture the office building, the lights on, people walking around in that building. Can picture the parking lot and how many spaces they can get in there, how many cars, how many big cars, small cars, where's the loading dock, where are they going to put supplies? It's everything. Where's the water going to run when it rains heavy? Everything, every single detail. That's all I'm asking you to do. A man's accomplishments in life are the cumulative effect of his attention to detail. John Foster Dulles, who once served as Secretary of State under Eisenhower, I think. A man's accomplishments in life are the cumulative effect of his attention to detail. What's your final product? What do you see in your heart? What have you dreamed? What have you discussed? What do we detail? When I was in my 20s, I managed a small structural steel fabrication shop. And I got the job solely because I knew how to read blueprints, because I'd been a tool and die apprentice. And my boss would hand me a set of these blueprints, and I would have to select the proper beam and then get my crew to cut it to the proper size and weld on any gussets or plates, and then drill the holes where the beams and columns were all going to fit together. And it had to be totally accurate. It had to be exactly as the blueprint said it was supposed to be built, or it wouldn't fit together when it was erected. And one wrong measurement discovered during erection, when you've paid for a crane and everybody's out there and they're miles away from the shop, would send my boss into a red-faced frenzy, which is very costly at that point. I tried hard to never allow that to happen. But the guys on my crew, some of them didn't know where an eighth an inch was. You'd have to show them on the tape. These are the guys he hired. They're just nuts because they would do the erection. They'd walk the high steel. But when they'd be in my shop, they knew how to put it together, but they couldn't read a tape measure. So I have to say, you cut it to right here on this tape. This is 8.5 or 8 1/8 inches. I first started using decimals. And my boss said, no. They don't understand decimals. These are all high school grads. They had no idea what a decimal, what 8.25 would be. Yeah, but it's crazy. But the point is, I would do this just to get a building up. Do I put the same effort into my own life? I would do it so I wouldn't get yelled at and keep my job. This guy once beat his own uncle up because he took plans he got the whole material list wrong. So this cost the boss thousands of bucks. He beat his uncle up. So this wasn't a guy to, it was crazy. He was a pretty nice guy until he wasn't. Quote, opportunity is missed by most people because it's dressed in overalls and looks like work. Thomas Jefferson. Life is work, folks. Nobody slides through life. The people who slide through life have just done it such a good job at preparing themselves that it looks easy. Like those runners, an elite runner or rowers or musician. They're just moving their hands up and down the strings of the guitar or the cello or the violin. It's like, that looks easy. And I get it. It's like, you know. Try to play a reeded instrument if you've never done it. You know, it's hard to do. Impossible for me. So, well, I've never tried. I think I've just broke people's reeds. So, see, blueprint your perfect job. Calculate how you're going to obtain your money for college. Map out a way to make new friends or to find a new love. Don't do that if you already have one. That's for you people who don't have one. Not that song, Torn Between Two Lovers, from the 70s. You know, I mean, do something every day to get your health back. Or, and here's the caveat, at least figure out how to best deal with your situation as you work toward total deliverance. It takes time sometimes. Sometimes it's instant healing. Quote, most of the important things in the world have been accomplished by people who have kept on trying when there seemed to be no hope at all. Dale Carnegie. Keep trying when there seems to be no hope at all. Here's another example. Colorado example. We have a large-scale artist named Cristo. And he's worked tirelessly for many years to get the permits necessary to suspend shiny silver fabric over almost 6 miles of Colorado's Arkansas River, somewhere near Salida. And he wants to leave this up for 2 weeks. Now, I'm not sure why. You see, but this guy keeps pushing and lobbying and planning. And he was quoted saying, and for every project, because it takes years, you can see the early drawings and collages as just a simple, vague idea. And through the years, and through the negotiations of getting permits, you see that every detail is now clarified. End of quote. Now, love him or hate him, this guy dedicates himself for years to perform his massive yet temporary art. I don't get it, but he has a whole following, websites promoting him and websites, condemning him. See, we dream it, discuss it, and put in the necessary time and work into designing the life we want to build. Dream it, discuss it, design it. And those are the first 3 steps to blueprinting our believing. And like I said before, these steps will work for prosperity, for health, for whatever, for anything. Only you are the architect of your own life. Only you. No one can do it for you. As much as we want them to. You ever been mad when somebody didn't get you a job where they worked? I have. They promise me, well, when you quit that job, I'll get you one. And you ask them and they go, I never said that. You're like, what? I mean, that happened a lot of times. They just talk. They didn't really mean to ever help, but I really thought they did. You see, you're the architect of your own life. No one can do it for you. No one wants to really do it for you. They talk like they do, but they don't. Take control of your own life. See, nobody can override your personal dream if it's strong enough. Now, we can get distracted by hanging on to somebody else's dream. So, design your life well. And finally, we put it all together, and now we're ready to do it. Step 4, do it. If you were paid to sit down and draw up a full set of blueprints for your life, what would you draw? From this day forward, what would you draw? What do you really want? And honestly, if we don't know, I guarantee we're living somebody else's dream. You've caught on to somebody else's rainbow. The representation you've drawn up so far is what you are today, who you are today. And did you know that God drew up a perfect set of blueprints of you and for you long ago, before the foundation of the world? Imagine what will happen when our believing vision meshes with His perfection. Who, buddy? Ephesians 2:10 from the New Living Translation. For we are God's masterpiece. He's created us anew in Christ Jesus so we can do the good things He planned for us long ago. Does God have our best interest in mind? Absolutely. You and I are each designed by God to be a masterpiece. You are designed a masterpiece. When our believing blueprint matches God's vision for us, there can and will be no failure. Keep pushing to perfect your personal blueprint. Keep pushing to perfect your personal blueprint. Quote, in the confrontation between the stream and the rock, the stream always wins, not through strength, but through persistence. End of quote. Chinese proverb. See, if others don't like your blueprint for success, as they say in New Jersey, forget about it. Quote, a successful man is one who can lay a firm foundation with the bricks others have thrown at him. David Brinkley. Life's going to throw bricks at you, so build something with them. See, action is the foundational key to all success. Profound quote by Pablo Picasso. Action is the foundational key to all success. I saw a representation of one of Picasso's paintings in one of the counseling rooms, and I thought, how is that healing? You got faces and heads and bodies, all but maybe to that psychologist, it looked great. Maybe it looked normal. Oh, my word. See, you are the architect of your own life. Act like it. See, dream it, discuss it, detail it, and then go do it. Go build your life. Start today. See, we each are the architect of our own life. Build well. See, you are beautiful. You're amazing. You're designed to be a timeless masterpiece for the entire world. There's nobody like you. There's nobody as good as you. See, like a high-performance race team or a grand-scale artist, let's dream, discuss, and design our desire. Then we can go and do it. Dream it, discuss it, design it, and do it. That is how we blueprint our believing. God bless.